Compound interest. What we want to do is we want to look at this special formula right here known as our compound interest formula. Now, it's not the formula on how every interest and everything in your life is done, but it gives us a general rule of how to figure it out. Now, what we need to understand is what do all these variables mean. So let's take a look at that. And this is a very generalizing formula. A to T is your account value or your total amount in that account. T is representative of your time in years. That's important to note. A, look, there's that lowercase a again that we've seen with exponentials. A is your initial amount. It's your principal amount. It's your starting amount, the amount you're going to borrow or invest. R is your annual percentage rate, APR. We want to make a note that this always needs to be written as a decimal, meaning it doesn't need to be a percentage anymore. And then N is the number of compounding periods in 1 year. And so let's talk about how many times in 1 year something can be compounded. If it's compounded annually or yearly, that represents that it's going to be an N value of 1. So once a year that's happening. If it talks about it being semi-annual or biannual, that means N is 2. It happens twice a year. If it says that it compounds quarterly, think about 4 quarters in a dollar, that means it's going to be compounded 4 times. If we talk about something being compounded monthly, that means there's 12 months in a year, so it would compound 12 times. If we talk about something being compounded weekly, there's 52 weeks in a year. And then if we talk about something being compounded daily, that means N is equal to 365. And you can see all of these are based on how many compounding periods in 1 year. So these are where those N values are going to be coming from. So let's see what we can do with some examples. It says if you invest $3,000 in an investment account, paying 3% interest compounded quarterly, how much will the account be worth in 10 years? So let's pull out our values. It says that we are going to invest $3,000. So that means A is the amount that we're going to borrow or invest, or our initial amount is $3,000. And then it says an account paying 3% interest. So our rate is equal to 3%, but remember you got to change that into a decimal, so it gives me 0.03. It says that it was compounded quarterly, so it's a cue that I'm going into this formula, but it also gives me that N is equal to 4. And then lastly, it says how much will it be worth in 10 years? And so that gives me a T value of 10. So I always like to write my formula. The more I see it, hear it, do it, the more I retain it. So I'm going to write my formula. I'm going to plug in all the values that I know. I know 3,000. 1 plus my rate is 0.03 over N, which is 4, raised to the 4 times T, which is 10. And that's equal to my A of T. And you can see A of T is the only letters or variables I have left over. So I'm going to go to my on-screen calculator. I'm going to plug this in exactly like I see it here. Now, sometimes I'm going to put parentheses around here so I make sure that it's multiplying those pieces up there. Let me show you what this is going to look like so you have an idea. Okay, so we're going to fill that in. So I have my 3,000, my open parentheses, 1 plus, we're going to set up our fraction here, 0.03 over 4. Close your parentheses, raise it, open parentheses, and then put your 4 times 10 up there. And you can see keeping that 4 times 10 parentheses, it kept it small, kept it in that exponent. And so that gives us a value of 4,045.045837. Now this didn't tell us how to round, but we know it's dealing with money. So money is always going to be rounded to 2 decimal places unless otherwise stated. So that means our result for this one would be $4,045.05. So we'll just go ahead and write that down here. So I got $4,045.05. Now, things being compounded like quarterly or like what we talked about is not the only way things can be compounded. That's where we're going to pick up our next formula. So it says continuous growth and decay or compound it continuously. This formula is going to be using e to the x when time between compounding periods becomes very small. And so your key word of when do I change formula is when it says compound it continuously or continuous growth and decay. And so this is going to be our formula we're going to use. A is still your starting amount, your initial value, your principal amount, the amount you're borrowing or investing. R is your continuous growth rate. Remember that always needs to be written as a decimal. So let's just kind of look at this example here. It says if you invest $3,000 in an investment account paying 3% interest compounded continuously, there's your key words that you're going to be using this formula. So I'm going to go ahead and say F of T equals AE to the RT. How much will the account be worth in 10 years? And so this 3,000 amount, that's our starting amount. That's our A value. Our rate was 3%. So I'm going to say equals 0.03. That's what I want to use for my rate. Compound it continuously. That's where it's coming into play that I'm using E here. And then it says how much is going to be in the account after 10 years. So my time is equal to 10. So this is equal to 3,000 E. My rate is 0.03 times 10. So that's how I'm going to enter that into that on-screen calculator. This gives me a value of $4,049.58. Again, rounding to 2 decimal places. And this is just going to be using that E that we were already using earlier. So you can see in this section, it does have a lot going on. Go in there, try the homework, and then reach out if you need some assistance.